Now, a couple of weeks ago, we did an if then on identity and how uh some of them were spies, some of them they were introduced as so and so, but their real name wasn't given or their title wasn't given, and the people started a relationship, or they were twins switching places or something like that with the regencies. And we read this one, Devil's Bride, and how Devil meets Honoria, and she doesn't know who he is for the first couple of chapters before they get to know each other. So that was a little bit with the identity thing. And then that Saturday, we read several chapters from this. And then we decided to. I just had it. Oh, to my left. The following week, we got onto book 2, The Rakes Vow, Vane's book. It's Devil, Vane, Scandal, Lucifer, and Gabriel are the 5 men. And then we have the twins, Amanda and Amelia. Well, come here. Don't just put your nails in my knee. Come over here. You can get up here all by yourself. Come on. Come over here. Where would you go? You're interrupting my video. You want to come up here, yes or no? Are you coming? Come here. Come here. I can't edit this. I don't know how to edit this. There is no editing in my videos. Come here. Come here. I gotcha. Okay. You happy now? Well, come here. Come sit with me. Come on. Come sit with me. So, we did Devil. And we did Veins. And, Vane ends up with, Patience. And there's a little mystery going on with the missing objects at, his aunt's house. His godmother's house. So, please check out the video for this one. Now, Richard, or Scandal, and where are you going? You're gonna knock all my books on the floor. Is that the the goal here, miss? Okay, where was I? So we're gonna do, these are the Cynsters. They're the core group. And I talked all about them with Devil's book. So go back and watch that one to catch up on that. But we're gonna do, okay. So we're gonna do Scandal's book. We're gonna do Richard's book. And then we'll go backwards, because even though this is a prequel, you read this and it spoils this one. So you have to get through this one before you can read the prequel. And she wrote this many years later. This was an afterthought with her. But this is a prequel. But we got to do this one first before we can do that one. And after we do the core Cynsters, the 9 books, then we're going to go on and do the Bastion Club. Now, the Bastion Club actually takes place a few years before and during the first couple of these books. And what's good about Stephanie Lawrence's characters is that they all interact. Your backup characters there are forerunners in the next book, are backup characters again in future books. The core group of people, your core task of people, show up book after book after book. So it's like a family. You're familiar with the family members, you're familiar with the friends, the extended core. And you may get one or two characters up front for a book, and then they fall to background characters, and the other ones come forward. And it's a wonderful series. And there's so many of them. So, like I said, we're going to go through the Cynsters every Saturday. We're going to do the Cynsters, unless something else comes up, but we're going to go through the Cynsters. Then we're going to go through the Bastion Club. And then after we do the Bastion Club, which is a little bit prior to this time-wise and a little bit during this time-wise, but she did write them afterwards. Then we're going to go ahead to the Black Cobra Quartet and the Buccaneers. She has a timeline on her website, either reading order by series or reading order chronologically. And she also has, and I've tried to enlarge this, and I've been unable to do it. And my computer is pretty bad, light-wise. But that's the tree. And I've been trying to get my computer to print and it won't. But I always said, and I've said this before, that if you pick up a book and read the book and you put it down and you remember what the book was about, then it was a good book. And what did I do with the other two? You do realize that I've read these enough times that this was 1998. I remember what these books were about without reading them now. I remember what they were about. I've read them so many times. I love these books. I've done a series read many times. So I'm sharing my love of these books with you. So this is book 1. This is book 2. We're going to cover book 3 today. Oh, no. 3. We're going to cover 3 today. Next week, we're going to go back and do the prequel. And then we'll move on with Damon's and Gabriel's and since Alistair or Lucifer. And then I don't know why I did this, but I wrote it on the front cover, Chillingsworth. He's a family friend. And then the twins on a wicked night and a wicked dawn. The twins. So let's get started with a little bit of scandal or Richard's story. He gets this letter and he was thinking about ignoring it, but he decides to go for it. And this starts, Katrina appears, they're family members, so they're going to appear in future books. These people are going to be repeat characters. But this starts, the Lady of the Veil. And this will be prominent in several books, especially the Next Generation books. She will become prevalent again. December 1st, 1819, Caspian Manor, the Vale of Casburn, Galloway Hills, Scotland. She'd never had a vision like this before. Eyes blue eyes, the sky over Merrick, high head, blue as cornflower dotting the vale's fields. They were the eyes of a thinker, far-sighted yet focused, or eyes of the warrior. Katrina woke, almost surprised to find herself alone. Her heart slowing, Katrina tugged the covers about her and considered the vision that had visited her. The vision of a man's face. The details remained strongly etched in her mind, along with the conviction that the man would mean something, impinge on her life in some vital way. She was the Lady of the Vale. The title, one of the local customs, was hers and hers alone. None other could claim it. As the only child of her parents, on their death, she inherited the Caspian Manor, along with the Vale and its attendants' responsibilities. Her mother had been the same, inheriting manor lands and positions from her mother before her. Each of her direct female ancestors had been the Lady of the Vale. When 6 years ago her parents had died, Seamus, her father's cousin had by cousin become her legal guardian. A cold, hard man, he had insisted that she take upon residence at the McHenry house so he could better find a suitor for her hand, a man to take over her lands. With his rigid fist clamped on her purse strings, she'd been forced to obey. She left the Vale and gone north to meet Samus. To do battle with Samus for inheritance, her independence, her inalienable right to remain the Lady of the Vale, to reside at Caspian Manor and care for its people. 3 weeks of turmoil and drama later, she returned to the Vale. Simus had spoken no more of suitors nor of her calling, and Katrina was quite certain he had never again taken the lady's name in vain. She focused on the parchment. After an instant, the outline blurred. Once more, the vision swam before her mind's eye. For a full minute, she studied it. The face clearly, the strong Prequel nose, determined square chin features chiseled from rock in their angularly hardness. His brow was concealed by a lack of black hair. Those piercing blue eyes were depth set beneath black arched eyebrows and framed by black lashes. A warrior without a cause. Katrina frowned and wriggled deeper under the covers. When she'd first seen that face, she felt instinctively deep inside that at long last the lady was sending her a consort, the one who would stand by her side, who would share the burden of the Vale's protection, the man who would take to her bed. With another triumph, Katrina slid beneath the covers, turning on her side, her eyes closed. She willed her mind away from once again seeking the stranger's fate. December 5th, 1819. Will there be anything else, sir? An artfully arrangement of sleek, nubile, naked female limbs sprang to Richard Cynsters' mind. The innkeeper had finished clearing the remnants of his dinner. The feminine limbs would satisfy the appetite still unappeased, but Richard shook his head. Not that he feared shocking the studiously correct gentleman's gentleman, Warboys standing poker straight at his elbow, having been in his employ for 8 years. Warboys was past being shocked, he was, however, no magician, and Richard was of the firm opinion that it would take magical powers to find a satisfying armful at Kelty Burn. His lips twitching into a slight smile, Richard stretched his long legs to the fire roaring at the grate. Whatever the state of the inn's blacking, the landlord hadn't stinted in making them comfortable. He frowned and resettled his shoulders and redirected his thoughts. It was a letter that had brought him here, one from the executor of his long-dead mother's husband, Seamus McHenry, who recently departed this earth. The uninformative legal missive had summoned him to the reading of the will, to be held the day after tomorrow at McHenry House, if he wished to claim a bequest his mother had made to him, which Seamus had apparently withheld for 30 years. He had to attend in person. From what little he learned of his late mother's husband, that sounded like Seamus McHenry. The man had been hot-headed, brash, and vigorous, hard and determined Willie Despot. His mother had not enjoyed being married to such a man. His father, Sebastian Cynster, 5th Duke of St. Ives, sent to Emery House to douse Seamus' political fire, had taken pity on her and given her what joy he could, which had resulted in Richard. The story was so old, 30 years old to be precise, he no longer felt anything over it, bar a distant regret for the mother he'd never known. She died of fever bare months after his birth. What did I do with the book? Let's go back this way. I just dumped my entire pile. So, this is the book he's talking about. This is the section here that he's talking about in here. What happens here? And the other reason he left London. The only important social event he was missing was his cousin Vane's belated wedding breakfast, an occasion he viewed with misgivings. He wasn't blind. He'd seen the gleam steadily growing in the eyes of the older Cynster ladies. Like Helena the Dowager, his much-loved stepmother, not to mention his fleet of aunts, if he'd attended Vane and Patience celebration, they'd have set their sights on him. He wasn't yet bored enough, restless enough to offer himself up fodder for the matrimonial machinations. Not yet. He knew himself well, perhaps too well. He wasn't an impulsive man. He liked his life well ordered, predictable. He liked to be controlled. Um, He had seen war in his time, but he was a man of peace, of passion, of home and hearth. The phrase raised images of mind of Vane and his new bride, of his own half-brother Devil and his Duchess, Honoria, and their son. Richard shifted and settled, unconscious, too conscious of what his brother and cousin now had, what he himself wanted, yearned for. He was, after all, a Cynster. He was starting to suspect plagiary thoughts were ingrained, an inherited susceptibility. They got under a man's skin and made him edgy, dissatisfied, ruthless, and vulnerable. Aboard Creek, Richard lifted his gaze, looking through the archway in the hallway beyond. A woman emerged from the shadows. Wrapped in a drab cloak, she met his gaze, an older woman, her face heavily lined. She measured him up swiftly. Her gaze turned frosty. Richard supposed a grin. Spine, her pace altering, the woman turned and climbed down the stairs. Slinking back in his chair, Richard let his arms curve. He was safe from temptation in Kelty arms. He looked back at the flames. Gradually his smile died. He shifted once, easing his shoulders. A minute later, his fluidly rose and crossed to the foggy window. So, the next day, Algera is her grandmother. Um, yeah, the woman is, I forget. But anyway, um, she has issues with Richard in the beginning. They have to deal with her through the whole book. There's a gentleman downstairs, Aglera's black eye said. He's one you should avoid. Oh, I'll make sure he doesn't see me, and everyone in the village knows me by sight, at least this sight. There's no danger here. Very well, don't dally. I suppose you'll tell me what this is all about when you can, I promise. They go to the graveyard. Um, for this, in the graveyard, in the lee of one wall, Richard looked down at his mother's grave. The inscription on the headstone was brief: Lady Eleanor McGurry, wife of Seamus McImry, late Laird of Kelty Head. That and nothing more. No affectionate remembrance, no mention of the bastard son she left behind. Richard's expression didn't change. He'd come to terms with the situation long ago. When he'd been abandoned on his father's doorstep, Helena Devil's mother had stunned everyone by claiming him as her own son. In doing so, she'd given him his place in the ton. No one, even now, would risk her displeasure or that of the entire Cynster clan by so much as hinting he was not who she claimed he was, his father's legitimate son. Instinctively shrewd, ebullient, generous, Helena had secured for him his position in its society elite, in which his heart he had never ceased to thank her. Sebastian had ruffled his hair and said she was a very lovely and very lonely. She deserved more than she got from her marriage. I felt sorry for her. But I love you. I regret her death, but I cannot regret your birth. He would understand how his father had felt. He was, after all, a Cynster to the bone. Family, children, home, and hearth, those were matter to the Cynsters. Those were sequential warrior goals, for them the ultimate victories of life. And then he sees Katrina. She had been in the cemetery. And they see each other. The first contact stunned her. She ceased to breathe. The very concept of breathing drifted from her mind and his lips moved lazily on hers. They were neither warm nor cool, yet heated lingered in their touch. They pressed close, then eased, sipped, supped, then returned, firm and demanding. They impinged on her senses, reaching deep, stirring her. She stirred encircling arms. It locked tight around her. Heat surrounded her, even though her thick cloak. It reached for her, enveloped her, then sank into her flesh and grew, built a crescendo of warmth-seeking release. His hot hunger had infected her. Utterly distracted, she tried to hold it back, to try to deny its existence, tried vainly to dampen it down. Their first kiss, they kiss upon meeting. They don't even know who each other are, and they're kissing. They have 3 pages of kissing. Lady, preserve me. Her words were a fervent whisper, condensed by the cold. They misted the air between them. She searched his face for what Richard could not guess. With his customary arrogance, he raised one brow. Lips so soft and rosy, much rosier now than before. By the lady's veil, this is madness. Who are you? Richard Cynster, entirely at your service. Do you make a habit of accosting innocent women in graveyards? Only when they walk into my arms. I request you put me down. You ordered me to put you down, and I did. Eventually. Yes. You're English. Yes. Cynsters are. Of Norman descent. We came over with the Conqueror. Well, we like to dabble, of course, to keep our hands in with the occasional conquest. I'll have you know this is all a very big mistake. The ends of Richard's lips lifted. His brows rose a more considering notch. Mistake? He watched her until she disappeared from sight, then stirred straightened his shoulders, and lips curving in a wolfish smile, strolled unhurriedly in her wake. What happens at the will reading? What happens between Richard and Katrina? What happens with him? Do they marry? Do they not marry? Is there an arrangement going on there? How does he let her take control of the estate? Does he follow her lead? How does he fit in? How do they form a partnership? It takes a really long time for the partnership thing to come in. A really long time. Richard feels a little useless for a while. And he goes through stages. And then Alastair, the grandmother, I forget, she's the grandmother. She's not Katrina's mom. I know that much. Um, but she is a constant threat to Richard the whole book. To the both of them, the whole book. She's got her issues with him. And you have to read the book to get all that out. So, book 1, book 2, and book 3. Find out what happens with Scandal, or Richard as you want to call him, the Cynsters. And next week, we'll go to the beginning before we continue and move on. My baby here can get some sleep. She likes mommy's bedtime stories. Have a good one.